Hello, my dear esteemed viewers. In this tutorial, we elaborate on do-while loop, another variant of iterative constructs provided by C. Thus far, we have seen the working of the for loop, the programming scenarios where for loop is more appropriate. In the same token, we have also seen working of the while loop and the situations that they are apt. As we proceed further with this tutorial, we will see how exactly the do-while loop works. As you can assume, or as you might guess by the title of this do-while loop itself, there is a gap between do and while, and this gap is filled with the while block itself. So it will facilitate the control to do or to work with all the statements that are written within the block at least for one time, and at the terminal the condition is placed. Okay, so we can explain the working of do-while loop very succinctly by going through this flowchart. Control, which comes from the top of the program, will enter like this, and it will execute all the statements unmindfully, and then it questions the relational expression, or it evaluates the relational expression. If the relational expression happens to be true, it will once again continue for the iterative cycle. Once again it comes back, and once again it establishes some kind of an evaluation. It does evaluation, and if it finds true, once again it will go back. So it iteratively goes back and comes back once again. It repeats and repeats and repeats till the expression evaluates to be false. Once it is evaluated to be false, the control will join the mainstream program. And this is the programming equivalent of the do-while loop. Do, this has the syntax something like this. Do, this is the while block. Action 1, action n. Theoretically there can be n number of actions, till as long as the expression is true. Once the expression evaluates to be false, the control will be immediately placed in the line beneath the while loop. The line beneath the while loop. And this is the first program that we are going to take, and the same program was used while we explained the while loop. This program will make the user to enter only positive numbers under a particular programming situation, possibly because only positive number is to be let through the program, because only positive number is to be used in for the further calculations. Okay, and it is something like this: integer number, that number is declared over here, please enter positive number only. This is a suggestive prompt given to the user. Upon looking into this, he may enter, a mischievous user may enter knowingly or unknowingly a negative number or a 0. It will be relational expression will be evaluated over here at the exit point, and if it becomes true, since he has entered negative number, let us say, once again it will be established as true, once again it will be repeated. So anyway you should notice that the condition is suffixed, while in the while loop condition is prefixed. Therefore while loop is called as entry control and do while loop is called as exit control. And one important thing that should be noted by respective viewers is the variable involved in the relational expressions that are defined in do while loop need not be predefined, because it will get generated within the loop itself, because the control will be let to pass at least one time. It will find an entry at least for the first time. It may become false later on, but anyway, so this is one of the advantages of do while loop. Having said that, we cannot use do while loop anywhere and everywhere. Okay, so therefore by this point of time, our respective viewers must have understood, it has become increasingly clear at least, that there are locations where only for loop is to be used, only while loop is to be used, only do while loop is to be used. The further examples will really clarify our understanding about, or it will reinforce our understanding about do while loop. Here is yet another example. This is all about finding GCD, that is greatest common divisor, and LCM, least common multiple of two positive numbers. And we will find GCD first, and then making use of GCD we will find LCM. That is the strategy. And we use the famous Euclid's algorithm in order to find GCD. Okay, this is a famous algorithm and very efficient algorithm. Okay, and it is given by GCD of m comma n equal to GCD of n comma m mod n. Okay, if m mod n becomes 0 in the very first cycle itself, if m mod n becomes 0, it will return n as GCD. Otherwise, m will become n and n will become m mod n. And same condition is checked again and again. Okay, and as soon as the remainder becomes 0, the program will be terminated and n will be returned as GCD. I will take an example to illustrate how exactly this algorithm works. We have taken 30 and 20 as the examples. They are positive numbers. So 30 comma 30 mod 20. Okay, 30 mod 20 happens to be 10. Okay, it is not equal to 0. Therefore 20 will come over here and 30 mod 20 will remain over here. It becomes 20 comma 10. So now 10 will come over here. So like n, 10 will come over here and 20 mod 10. 20 mod 10 happens to be 0. Therefore it will return n as the answer. So GCD equal to 10. Now LCM is calculated by just multiplying the original numbers 30 and 20 and dividing it by GCD. Okay, so LCM equal to m into n divided by GCD. That is the formula. Anyway, and the program is here and we need to go through this very carefully. Integer m comma n. M is the first positive integer, n is the second positive integer. Remainder that is going to be generated, and you must have noticed the remainder is to be generated within the loop itself. Therefore remainder cannot be predefined, and the entire problem revolves around, or the iterative way of computation or repeated computation will only stop if and only if remainder becomes 0. At some point of time remainder has to become 0, and we don't know really as to when remainder becomes equal to 0. Therefore do while loop is the candidate. If we don't know when exactly a particular condition becomes false, then do while loop is the candidate. And in a situation where we cannot define the variable involved in the relational expression, do while loop is the candidate. And since we are going to lose m and n, because m and n are successively utilized while computing GCD, we are going to lose the original information. Therefore we will make a duplicate copy of m and duplicate copy of n in dupli 1 and dupli 2, because dupli 1 and dupli 2 are needed in order to calculate LCM, because LCM happens to be dupli 1 into dupli 2 divided by GCD, and GCD and LCM is named by their namesake only. Okay, and we have put a clear screen. We have already explained as to why this clear screen is to be placed, and we give a suggestive guidance for the user. Enter two positive integers and he or she will enter. The first number will go to the address of m, the second number will go to address of n, and they will be duplicated in dupli 1 and dupli 2. Dupli 1 contains m and dupli 2 contains n. So it is stored. There is nothing to lose about now. So remainder equal to m mod n. Okay, if remainder equal to 0, GCD equal to n. Else m will become equal to n and n will become equal to remainder. We have carefully translated the algorithm over here within the loop, and you should notice remainder is defined within the loop. Therefore do while loop is a candidate, so that we can place that particular variable that is generated within the loop in the relational expression. As long as remainder not equal to 0, do this as long as remainder not equal to 0. That is the a natural way of expressing this do while loop. And here we have calculated by making use of GCD that is generated out of this loop, and once we come out of this loop we will find GCD, okay, and LCM is calculated by making use of GCD. This is the formula. It can be proved also. Dupli 1 into dupli 2 equal divided by GCD. Now we have printed this. So if dupli 1 is 30 and dupli 2 is 20, and here GCD of 30 and 20 is equal to 10. It will come LCM, whatever the value that is generated over here will be printed. And we have given an example also. Okay, we have worked out. Anyway, it is requested that my respected viewers will just type this in a typical IDE, and they will get this program, okay, a runnable program. Okay, this program evaluates the value of pi using the series. This is yet another potential program from engineering circles. Okay, it is a problem of engineering interest. Of course, you know pi is used in many scientific circles. Okay, pi is an entity to reckon with. Okay, it is given by the series square root of 6 by 1 square, 6 by 2 square, and 6 by 3 square. And here is the series. And we will be able to get the accurate value of pi. Of course, pi is a recurring fraction. Of course, you know that. Okay, and we will be able to get an accurate value of pi if we consider many terms. Okay, the simple thing is as many terms as we consider, more accurate we will be. But sky is not the limit anyway. Sky is not the limit. We have to efficiently control the loop, and we have to terminate the loop in such a way that we will get the pi to the utmost accuracy level. Therefore, we will fix an accuracy. We will fix a very high accuracy. Okay, what we do is we will go up to this particular point and we will gather the value of pi. Let us say we will call it as pi previous. Okay, in the previous iteration, whatever that we have got, and we will go to the next cycle and we will also get the value of pi, and this is called as, let us call this value to be pi new. And please remember, the pi new will always be higher than pi p. Okay, therefore more number of terms we consider, more accurate we are. But technically speaking, we cannot go like this. We have to fix an accuracy. The accuracy is to the tune of, normally the accuracy will be to the tune of 1 into 10 to the power of, let us say, -6. That is 0.0000001. That means when the difference between two successive values of pi that is generated out of series is lesser than or equal to this particular accuracy, automatically the loop has to stop. This is how we need to program. Okay, I repeat, difference is to be gathered between the pi value that is obtained in the current cycle and the pi value that was obtained in the previous cycle, and the numerical difference will give a marginal difference, and this difference should be equated to this particular accuracy. It should be less than that. Then it is the same way as telling that we have reached the accuracy, desired accuracy level. If we limit this accuracy to, say, let us say 0.001, we will get a very poor value, or a value of pi which is with low accuracy. That is the simple thing. Okay, so with this context in mind, with this concept in mind, we will write a program for this. Okay, integer I, this is exclusively to generate the cycles or generate the iterations, and it has to come in the denominator also, because it is 6 by 1 square, 6 by 2 square, 6 by 3 square, therefore 6 by I square, I into I. So float pi previous, pi p, it is for pi previous. This is for accuracy level. Okay, this is a variable which will hold the accuracy level given by the user. We will ask the user to give the accuracy level. The term term is nothing but 6 by 1 square, 6 by 2 square. So terms keeps on changing. Sum equal to 0. Anyway, the pi is to be gathered by adding them. It is a summation series. Okay, it's therefore we need an accumulator. To start with, this accumulator will have 0 value. Pi new, the value of pi that is generated in the current cycle, and pi new minus pi previous will generate difference, and this difference matters for us, and this difference should be equal to the stated accuracy level or less than the stated accuracy level, and that is the stage when the loop has to stop. Definitely by this point of time our respected viewers must have understood that it is impossible to define this difference or when exactly this difference will reach a particular accuracy level. Therefore, do while loop is the candidate for this, because difference is generated within the loop. Okay, scanf, we have read the accuracy and this will be given by the user, and we have guided the user like this, enter the accuracy, something like this. This you remember, this accuracy can be given like this also, 1.0 e minus 6. This is as good as telling it's a scientific representation of the data, 1.1 into 10 to the power of minus 6. This way also we can just fill it up. Pi previous equal to 0. Anyway, we have not entered into the gathering of pi value, therefore pi previous is 0. I equal to 1. Iteration is started now. I equal to 1. I cannot be set to 0. I cannot be set to 0 because I surfaces in the denominator. Okay, 6 by I square it should be. Okay, as we go through this program you will be able to understand. Okay, term equal to 6.0. You can put 0 or you can ignore, no problem. Okay, anyway, term is defined as a float and I here is an integer. Anyway, this should be made as 6.0. Okay, it will become wrong if we say 6 by I square, because it becomes integer division, and we remember that integer division results in truncation. Therefore, it should be necessarily converted into float. Therefore, 6 should be written as 6.0 only. Okay, the entire expression will become float now, and term is already declared as a float term. Okay, these are all the cautionary steps that we have to take. So sum equal to sum plus term. In the first cycle, what we get is sum equal to 0, earlier value of sum, plus 6 by 1 square. Okay, in the second cycle what we get is sum equal to sum, that is 6 by 1 square plus 6 by 2 square, and then we will calculate pi new equal to square root of sum. Then we will calculate difference equal to pi new minus pi previous. So difference is gathered. It is the numerical difference between the current value of pi and the previous value of pi. Okay, then we will gather the difference over here. Then we will set pi previous equal to pi new, because it has to go for the next iteration. Then we will increment I plus plus, so that in the next iteration I will become 2. So now it will become 6 over 2 square, and sum will be different now. Pi new will be different. Okay, and it will be difference equal to pi new minus pi previous. Okay, pi previous. Okay, pi new will arrive different. Okay, it is new, and pi previous is already stored. Okay, the previous value is already stored, therefore numerical difference will be evaluated over here, and the iteration goes on like this till as long as this is true. When difference is greater than accuracy, when the difference becomes less than or equal to accuracy, the loop will stop and it will bring out the value of pi. Okay, it is one and the same if you say pi previous or pi new, because we have already, by the time we leave this, the control leaves this block, pi p is equated to pi new. Anyway, you can try writing pi new also. Okay, and here is an example of the output which was run. Right, enter the accuracy. The user has given 0.00001. The value of pi is 3.141274. Now, in the same token, we take another example, which is about finding Euler's number, that is E, which is used which is used as a base of natural logarithms. It's an Neperian logarithm. Okay, it's a Euler's number which has a place of sanctity in engineering and scientific circles, and its value is something like 2.718 or so. Okay, it can be approximated using the following formula: E equal to 1 plus 1 over 1 factorial, 1 by 2 factorial, 1 by 3 factorial, etc., etc. Okay, this program approximates E using a loop that terminates when the difference between the two successive values of E differ by less than this particular value. Okay, like this we go say same arguments holds good here also. That is, more number of terms we consider, more accurate the value of the Euler number will be. Therefore, we will have a different notation over here. Euler, that is Euler previous and Euler present. Okay, we will calculate the Euler's value and we will store it here for the comparison for the next cycle, and this will be called as Euler's previous, and we will go for the next iteration, and this will be called as Euler's present, and we will take the numerical difference between these two, and if this numerical difference is less than this particular accuracy, the loop has to stop. Anyway, once again, as I explained for the previous example, the difference is to be generated within the loop only. The loop should be set to start, set to work, then only difference will be generated. Therefore, this is also another candidate problem where do-while loop is applicable. So, and you should notice over here, this will be called as a term, and this term should generate float values. Okay, and we cannot translate like this only, because 1 by 1 factorial will result in integer division, and the denominator is increasing in terms of its factorial value. In the first term it is 1 factorial, then it becomes 2 factorial. By the second term itself, the value will be 1 plus 1. It will have become 2, and later on it goes on accumulating. This will become 0.5. Okay, so 2.5 if you go for the third iteration. Okay, anyway, we want a fine-tuned value of fine-tuned value of Euler's number, which is equal to the value that is generated by the built-in function available in C. We will also compare with the built-in function, and we will see that it really works, this particular technique of controlling the loop. Okay, right, here is the program. Okay, we have included math because we have used built-in function also to check whether we are getting correct value of Euler number or not. So integer I equal to 1, this is exclusively for generating iterations. It's a loop index. I repeat, it's a loop index. Float Euler previous, Euler present, Euler previous, accuracy level that will be defined by the user, term that is 1 by 1 square, 1 by 1 factorial, 1 by 2 factorial, 1 by 3 factorial. These are all terms. Difference is always Euler's present minus Euler's previous. Fact equal to 1, because factorial is to be generated through multiplication. Fact here remains to be an accumulator. Okay, printf, enter the accuracy. The user will enter an accuracy. Okay, it will be stored in ACC, the variable. Euler previous equal to 1.0, Euler present equal to 1.0, Euler previous is also equal to 1.0. You can remember in pi series we did it as 0 because it is the summation is to be taken under the square root and the initial value has to be 0, but here the initial value could be 1. Initial value is over here is 1, therefore initial value is taken as 1 for both for Euler previous and for Euler present. Now we generate fact fact equal to fact into I. We are generating factorials. So in the first cycle, fact is set to 1, it will become 1 into 1, that is 1 factorial. Term equal to 1.0 divided by fact. Term equal to 1.0 divided by fact. So in the first cycle, it will be 1 over 1 square. Sorry, 1 over 1 factorial. In the second cycle, it will be 1 over 2 factorial, because fact will be 1 factorial, 1 into 2. Okay, this is 1 into 2 into 3 in the third iteration. This is all about generating the factorial, which happens to be the denominator of the term. So Euler present equal to Euler previous plus term. Euler present equal to Euler present plus term. Euler present equal to Euler present plus term. Euler present was 1 plus term, 1 over 1 plus 1 over 1 factorial in the first cycle. So it becomes 2. So difference equal to Euler present minus Euler previous. So in the first cycle, Euler present has already become 2 and Euler previous is just 1. 2 minus 1 will be 1. So difference is definitely greater than accuracy. Okay, I plus plus. Euler previous equal to Euler previous equal to Euler present. Before it goes for the next cycle, Euler previous is exchanged with the Euler present for the further comparison, right? And this loop will repeatedly execute as long as the difference that is generated over here within the loop is greater than accuracy. Okay, then aftermath of this, we print out the value of Euler's number from the series, of course, from the series. I should have added over here from the series equal to Euler present. You could have written Euler previous also. Okay, for obvious reasons. Euler's number through built-in function equal to percentage of exp of 1, because it is e to the power of, it is a power function actually defined in C library, and anyway we have included math. Therefore this will give us the real value of e that is doled out from the built-in function. And we have executed this, and here is a screen snapshot. Enter the accuracy. The user has entered 0.000001, that is 1 into 10 to the power of minus 7. It's a great accuracy level. The value of Euler's number is generated from the series happened to be 2.718282, and Euler number through built-in function also happened to be 2.718282. So with this tutorial, I think it is conclusively clear that when exactly a programmer should use for loop and while loop and do while loop. If all the other conditions remains constant, all the looping constructs work in a similar fashion. Okay, for loop is to be used, once again I repeat, for loop is to be used whenever when to start an iteration and when to stop an iteration is known to the programmer beforehand. He knows really. And while loop is really will execute as long as the condition is true. Therefore it is a condition based iterative construct, but anyway it comes with a caveat. It comes with a condition that the variable involved in the generation of relational expressions should be predefined. If that is the case, if your problem permits this, then while loop is the candidate. If in most of the scientific calculations, some of the terms used in the relational expressions are generated within the loop, at least we should have done one round of calculation. Okay, then we will be able to get the variable or whatever that will be generated within the loop. Then do while loop is the candidate. So we will continue with more examples involving all the iterative constructs, and we will cover all possible problems from engineering and scientific circles. Okay, until then, bye.